You're listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, where you get valuable information you just can't find anywhere else. To thrive in today's trying times, you need the Financial Survival Network, now more than ever. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and get your free newsletter and gift. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.
Welcome. You are listening to watching the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz. Well, it's not every day that we get a famous libertarian on the show. You know my leanings. I'm totally libertarian in many respects. Person you're about to hear from, well-known college professor of economics and a perennial New Jersey candidate, ran for governor and for senator a couple of times. Pleased to introduce you to Dr. Murray Sabrin. Dr. Sabrin, it's great to have you on the show. So now I guess you had a wake-up call. You're retired, living in Florida, writing books. Which part of your career is your favorite part?
Well, that's an interesting question because everything has been interesting in my career. The 35-year career of teaching finance to students has been just a wonderful experience, especially the last few years where I taught the financial history of the United States. And in as much as I was a history major and a geography minor, I thought it would be a great course for students to integrate business and the social sciences, because what they learned in that course is something that they never learned in their history courses, their economics courses, or any of their business courses. And students just ate it up, to use a common expression, because they got to learn how the United States financial system evolved from pre-colonial days through the 19th century, through the Great Depression, and up until the recent crisis we had in 2007, 2008. In addition, they learned how to analyze the economy better than most economists. We looked at the business cycle, we looked at interest rates, and all the things that are affected by the Federal Reserve manipulating interest rates. And of course, we're seeing it unfold right before our eyes again with the Fed's aggressive tightening in 2022.
Yeah, and it's funny because you think economic policy really has no place in business. It's all theoretical. It doesn't mean anything. For myself, running a business, I followed the Fed. When they started raising interest rates, I would cut back on credit. I'd give better credit terms to get people to pay quicker, because I knew that when the economy went down, that bad debts were going to go up. So by getting a warning from the Fed in the form of higher interest rates, I was actually able to take action and help my company get through the inevitable recession.
Well, that's what I discussed in the book that was published a year ago, Navigating the Boom-Bust Cycle, an Entrepreneur Survival Guide. And I go through a lot of the economic variables that are affected by the Fed's policies. And it provides a blueprint for entrepreneurs to decide or help them make better decisions in managing their businesses. So I'm very proud of that book because it takes the Austrian School of Economics principles and shows how it's applicable in business decision-making.
Yeah, it really is. And I can say that for myself. In addition, you might not be a commodity speculator or investor, but you are a knowingly one. If you buy gasoline for your car and you have electricity in your home and all these things, then you are a consumer of energy, of commodities. And one thing I learned is, hey, if I think electric rates are going to go up, energy's going up, then I'll buy some utility stocks, well-run utility stocks, because they're going to be the beneficiary of this in all likelihood. Obviously there's regulatory and business risk, and buy some energy stocks if it looks like we're in an inflationary cycle and energy prices are going up. And I can, if I do it right, besides the dividends I get from those stocks, they're high dividend payers, the appreciation in those stocks will more than make up for the extra money I'm paying at the pump or at the electric meter.
One of the things I suggested a year ago when I was discussing the boom-bust cycle, what do consumers do to protect themselves against inflation? Well, if they think inflation is going to go up by 10%, which very few people thought a year ago that was going to happen this year. You start buying things on sale that have nice discounts and you have long shelf life, and you're effectively making 10% on your money with no risk. Plus, you're consuming things that give you utility, give you satisfaction. So every time I see something on sale at Costco or any other place, if we use it on a continuous basis, we'll buy two instead of one, because anytime you get a nice discount at the store, I'm ready to purchase more. And of course, this is one way the so-called little guy can protect themselves from this inflation that the Fed brings about with its easy money policies.
If you remember Will Rogers, he always said, invest in inflation. It's the only thing going up.
Yeah. Who else? One comedian said, what we need is a good 5-cent nickel.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, so after World War I, a cigar before World War I went for 5 cents. And then after World War I, it went for 10 cents. And the campaign slogan, was it for Coolidge? I don't remember.
Harding. And
Harding. Oh, it was Harding. It was, what this country needs is a good 5-cent cigar, right?
Yeah.
And now we could use a good $5 cigar, but you're not allowed to smoke it in any public place. So,
well, that's not a bad thing, since smoking is one of the major causes of chronic illness in the United States, and the numbers on the health of the American people are really staggering. That's the other book that I wrote, actually 2 books I wrote on healthcare in the last year, and with a $4 trillion medical care expense in the United States, which is nearly 20% of GDP, far higher than any nation in the world. We have to have some serious discussion in this country about how to bring those costs down and keep quality up. And that's one of the things I will continue to write about, because that is clearly unsustainable between private insurance, Medicare, and Medicaid. We just can't continue to pay a greater and greater percentage of our income toward healthcare.
Yeah, no way. It's just not going to work. And obviously, you can do a lot of things to extend your health, to keep off chronic disease, all of that. So when you're looking around the landscape here, you see that government spending out of control, the economy is a shambles, the state of freedom in the United States and the world is in serious jeopardy. What do? What gives you hope for a brighter tomorrow?
Well, that's one of the reasons I retired, but unretired very quickly by writing books, because I think getting cogent, good analysis out to the public will hopefully cause the light bulbs to go off for the American people and say, let's have a real honest discussion, a real civil discussion about what ails America and how to fix it. And that's really the focus of my writing is, what are the problems? How did we get here? And how do we fix it? And so whether it's spending, whether it's regulation, whether it's overextension overseas with this endless wars that we have, whether it's the manipulation of interest rates, tax rates, these are all come together with government spending, or I should say big government is driving all this from the monetary side, from the fiscal side, from the tax side, from the military-industrial complex side. And so it's pretty easy if once you apply some common sense and logic to what are the issues. And this is my mission in my last career on this planet, is to educate as many people as I can with the information that I've gathered over 50 years of researching these topics, and having the good fortune to have met and be introduced to the Austrian School of Economics, the libertarian political thought, and basic legal concepts, from starting with the law by Bastiat from 1850, one of the great little monographs of all time. Mm-hmm. Every American should read it, and they can read it free online, the law. And once you put everything together, it's pretty clear to me what needs to be done is to go back to a constitutional budget. Article 1, Section 8 outlines exactly what the federal government should spend money on. And when you look at the federal budget today, virtually 90% of it, maybe more, is not authorized by the Constitution. So although I took an oath to uphold the Constitution when I became a U.S. citizen in 1959, and members of Congress, occupants of the White House, members of the Supreme Court, they all take an oath to uphold the Constitution. It seems to me that I've kept my true allegiance to the Constitution by promoting these limited government ideas, while public office holders in Washington have really turned their back on the Constitution. And that's the sad reality of American politics today.
So true. All the spending, like you said, 90% of it is unconstitutional and clearly not permitted by the Constitution, but lawsuits, everything. I mean, we see in the society today, all of our institutions are corrupt and unable to carry out their basic functions for the most part. Turning that around, look, public education. You've been at the forefront of education for your career. You see how it's been dumbed down, that intellectual curiosity is something that's the exception, no longer the rule. And how do you just turn all that around when it looks like the train has left the station?
Well, as I think the Chinese say, every long journey begins with one step. And we're on a long journey to turn the ship of state around in the United States. It didn't happen overnight. It took more than 100 years to get here, between the creation of the Federal Reserve, the introduction of the income tax, Social Security in 1935, Medicare and Medicaid in 1965. So in my first book, Tax-Free 2000, I outlined how we could get to a tax-free society, which would be the ideal libertarian framework for domestic tranquility, sustainable prosperity, and peaceful relations around the world. So my job right now is writing on Substack, appearing on podcasts like yours and others, and radio shows, and just reach hundreds, thousands, maybe tens of millions of people with the message, because I think it resonates with a large number of people who see that Washington is broken. There's no way anyone can claim that Washington is doing good for the American people, given the size of the national debt, the size of the federal budget, the gross invasion of our privacy, the spying on American people through the NSA and other agencies. This has me very concerned about the next 10, 20 years in America, because we have to leave something for future generations, make the country better than we found it, and we're going in the wrong direction. And so I hope to be one of the individuals that raises the warning that we have to change course. We are, as Hayek pointed out in 1944, on the road to serfdom. And it's just been this creeping statism that has infected every institution in our society, and especially the media. I grew up in the 1950s and 60s where you had objective reporting, and now we don't have anything close to that in the mainstream media.
And not to mention the big tech platforms they're all extensions of the government. As we found out from Twitter, the government had a direct portal in there. Whatever they didn't like, they told them, and it got pulled. They shadow banned, they lied to Congress, all of this. And that's just Twitter. I mean, who knows what the rest of them are doing? So when you look at that and you see that we're on the road to this, this real subservient technocratic society where the mass of the citizenry is totally held captive by the elites.
Don't just survive, thrive. The Financial Survival Network.
Torque Resources is an exploration company establishing a portfolio of premier copper gold early stage projects in Chile. Torque's management and technical teams have a strong track record of raising capital, discovery, and monetization of exploration successes. The company's Margarita Copper Gold project is located within the prolific coastal Cordillera Belt in Chile, which hosts some of the world's largest and most profitable copper mines. The Margarita project possesses excellent discovery potential for a major copper discovery due to the strength of the alteration system, large-scale magnetic targets, and the presence of copper oxide mineralization. Drilling is anticipated to begin in Q3 of this year. Torque trades in Canada under TORQ and on the OTC under TRBMF. To learn more, go to torqueresources.com. That's torqueresources.com.
This is the Financial Survival Network, the information you need to thrive now more than ever.
Well, this is why technology is a double-edged sword. It's great for individuals. We can have this conversation, anywhere in the world. It's just amazing that Zoom allows that to happen. The internet allows that to occur, but yet the government can spy on us very easily by hacking into our email, hacking into our text messages. And so that's the double-edged sword of technology. That's why we have to rein in government. And unfortunately, the liberals in America used to be for privacy, against a big government intrusion in our lives, have come on board with this techno-fascist approach toward our society. And this is one of the most dangerous developments in my lifetime.
They were also anti-war. Now they're pro-war. They're more pro-war than the Republicans, who always had the reputation of warmongering.
It's stunning how America has changed in just 3 short years, pre-COVID to now. I mean, no one in 2019 would have predicted that the United States would have sort of medical authoritarianism as one of the foundations of the federal government. And that's another very troubling development. The doctor-patient relationship is the heart of good medicine, not the CDC and the federal government and the public and the states. So we have a lot to educate the American people about. What does it mean to be an individual in a free society? And a lot of people just don't believe that. They think what the government does is either benign or wonderful, and the evidence is just the opposite. All these mandates, these lockdowns, they have stifled kids' education, stifled their social development, and ruined businesses. I'll give you one anecdote. 2020, spring of 2020, when the lockdowns began, one of my students, the last day of class in my securities investment course, said, "I'd like to speak to you." This is on a Zoom call because we were teaching via Zoom. He said, "I'd like you to meet my father, who was opening up a restaurant in Times Square, took out a huge loan, but it was shut down by New York City, so he couldn't open the restaurant. He was paying the lease and invested $250,000. So I said, you need to see a good lawyer to find out if he can break the lease or when he can be open." So this is one tiny example of what happened around the country, where people were going to open up a business, but they were shut down because of the lockdowns. And I just don't know what the outcome was for that student's father, but it just shows you the fecklessness of politicians. Do they have any conscience about what they've done to the people of America because of these lockdowns? And to me, this shows you the authoritarian nature of the people in Washington that has to be challenged day by day by day.
Yeah, freedom, is always being encroached upon, right? And it's always being persecuted and restricted, and you can't take it for granted. I guess that's the lesson of this. I mean, like, I knew after 2008 and 2009 we were going to have a far worse economic crisis. It's going to put that to shame. Did I know it was going to be health induced? No, I had no idea. But when I saw it, I knew it right away, and I saw the opportunities. That's the thing, Murray. Government is supposed to be the referee. They're not supposed to be picking winners and losers. Sure. But it seems like government, that's their specialty now. The less worthy you are of being a winner, the more likely you are to be a loser. You become a government favorite project, like this FTX thing, which looked like a daisy chain of corruption and bribery, political bribery and foreign aid bribery and everything else.
It's really a horrendous situation. I think that's why a lot of people are fed up with both political parties, because they just see them sniping at each other as Leviathan just keeps on getting larger and larger in Washington, D.C. Spending goes up no matter who's in office. And although the Republicans give us tax cuts occasionally, but they don't cut spending. And so they failed the American people. They failed good fiscal policy because they say they're for limited government and free enterprise. And the reason I left the Republican Party in 1971 is because Nixon did wage price controls. Mm-hmm. And all those advisors who were supposedly free marketeers signed on to that, which is the opposite of free enterprise, dictating to businesses what they can charge and what the salary should be of workers. And so that's when I was a politically independent and discovered libertarianism by accident, if you will, and have been running with that philosophical ball ever since.
Welcome to the club. I discovered it. I was a student at Pace University. I had seen Milton Friedman's Free to Choose, and it was then I kind of discovered libertarianism in the library at Pace University. In a dark, dank corner was a whole extensive case of libertarian economic thought, from Mises to Hayek to Murray Rothbard to Percy Greaves, a whole bunch of people I'd never heard of, read all those books and realized, this is the way, and that we were headed for disaster because, the system was going to fail because it's predicated on ever higher amounts of debt, having a debt-based currency, and manipulation. Central planning has to fail. It's failing in China now. Remember, like a few short years ago, we were told how great the Chinese system is, and we need to be a lot more like China. And now look what's going on there, Murray.
Well, what is amazing in the research I've done, I did for my book on navigating the boom-bust cycle, is that American entrepreneurs are the most resilient, creative, innovative folks around, because no matter where we are in the business cycle, they're always thinking of making things better. And that's why I'm optimistic about the future, because the men and women out there are constantly striving to improve the lives of the American people with their products and services. It's just that government policy just really makes it a disaster for the macro economy. And so therefore, I wish we would have more entrepreneurship on the news instead of the political machinations that go in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, I could not agree with you more. So your latest book, if I have it right, From Immigrant to Public Intellectual, an American Story. And a story like that could only happen in America. Hopefully it'll continue to. I notice, your book is like right next to Ben Shapiro's book, If It Ain't Woke, Don't Fix It. And then we have the finance of healthcare, wellness, innovative approaches to employee medical insurance. Hey, a lot of good material here. Murray, is there a website we can watch and see your latest work get posted to?
Well, I write on Substack, murraysabrin.substack.com. And what I do there is I write short pieces on the economy and politics. And I just posted a piece December 15th about how the GOP can take control of the Senate if they're creative and aggressive in wooing Senator Sinema, who just became an independent, and wooing Joe Manchin, who represents one of the reddest state in the country, who's up for re-election in 2024. So if he switches parties or becomes an independent and caucuses with the Republicans, if both of them do that, then the Republicans will have 51 seats instead of 49 seats, and they will be in the majority. So I'm just wondering if the Republicans have even thought about that, because in the article I pointed out all the Senate committees that are out there, and Joe Manchin, I probably would love to be head of the Energy Committee, since his state is an energy producer, and Senator Sinema represents Arizona, which is a border state, so she could head up the Homeland Security Committee. And if Mitch McConnell has any brains to be a little bit creative in wooing people to his side of the aisle, the Republicans can control the Senate, and we'll see what happens, because right now the Democrats are taking us so far down the road to bigger and bigger government that there will be a financial crisis one day. And the marker that I'm looking for when I started researching all this stuff 45, 50 years ago, is if foreigners start dumping dollars or start dumping their treasury securities, then the dollar goes into the tank, and then it's checkmate, because then prices will skyrocket as import prices go through the roof. And if you look at the history of countries where they've had financial crises, it's because foreigners didn't want to hold their currency any longer.
Confidence.
And the central bank just kept on printing up money to make up for the shortfall, and you're off to the races, like Germany in 1923.
Yep. All right. Well, we have a link in the show notes to Murray's Substack column there. I recommend you all take a look at it. Take a look at the books. You'll find them on Amazon and wherever fine books used to be sold. If you've got a question for Murray, please shoot me an email, kl@kerrylutz.com. And while you're at the site, financialsurvivalnetwork.com, sign up for a free newsletter. Murray, total pleasure, and we look forward to having you back again.
Thanks, Kerry. It's great to be with you.
Thanks for listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, your solution to today's trying times. For the latest, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.